On October 23rd at 6:47 p.m., a stranger called to tell me my daughter was dying in the woods. Her mother-in-law, Victoria Whitmore, had beaten her unconscious and left her for dead, telling her she had dirty blood and deserved to die. I'm Dorothy Gable, 62 years old. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I said, I'm on my way. Then I decided Victoria Whitmore would pay for what she'd done. Let me back up 6 hours. That morning, October 23rd, 2024, started ordinary. I was at the farmer's market on Route 47 buying apples for jam. 20 pounds of Honeycrisps, $32 total. I'm Dorothy Gable, a retired nurse. I worked 35 years at Mercy County Hospital in Pennsylvania before retiring 5 years ago at 57. My husband Marcus died 3 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, age 64. Since then, I've lived alone in our farmhouse on 10 acres outside Pine Creek Township. I'm a black woman in rural Pennsylvania. Well, mixed. My grandmother, Zora Mae Johnson, was black from Alabama. She married my white grandfather in 1945. My mother was their daughter, light-skinned with green eyes. My father was white. I came out looking like my grandmother. Dark brown skin, tight black curls, broad nose. In these parts, that made me other my whole life. People here called me things. Half-breed, mongrel, dirty blood, especially that last one. It followed me everywhere, school, work, even the hospital where I saved lives for 3 decades. But I survived. I became a nurse when black women in our county couldn't get hired for anything. I married Marcus, a good man. We had one daughter, Jennifer Marie Gable. We called her Jenny. She came out light-skinned, ambiguous features. She could pass, though I hated that word. Jenny was brilliant. MBA from Penn State, summa cum laude. 8 years ago, at age 24, she married Bradley Whitmore. His family owns Whitmore Construction Holdings, worth about $340 million. They build shopping centers, office parks, hotels across Pennsylvania and New Jersey. The wedding cost $180,000. I remember because Victoria Whitmore, Bradley's mother, made sure everyone knew. Victoria is 58 years old, thin, blonde, the kind of woman who wears Chanel suits to grocery stores. She's executive director of Bright Hope Foundation, a children's charity. Last year, they raised $4.7 million at their annual gala. Philadelphia Magazine called her Philanthropist of the Year. At Jenny's wedding, Victoria looked through me like I was invisible. At the reception, she introduced me to her friends as the mother without using my name. When someone asked about my work, Victoria interrupted. Oh, Dorothy was a nurse. Very dedicated. The way she said nurse, like I'd been cleaning bedpans instead of running a trauma unit. But I smiled, said nothing. That's what you learn when you're black and white spaces. Smile, stay calm, document everything. After the wedding, Jenny moved to Harrisburg, into a $3.2 million mansion on the Susquehanna River. She called less and less, visited maybe twice a year, always looked tired. Always changed the subject when I asked how things were. Everything's fine, Mom. Don't worry. But a mother knows. 2 years ago, Jenny was pregnant. 8 weeks along. Then she miscarried. The doctors said it happens. 20% of first pregnancies end that way. But when Jenny visited me after the miscarriage, she was different. Quiet. Scared. I asked what happened. She said the doctors didn't know. Just one of those things. I didn't push. I should have. So that morning, October 23rd, I was driving home from the market when my phone rang at 6:47 p.m. My old Nokia flip phone, the kind with actual buttons. Is this Dorothy Gable? Male voice, out of breath, unfamiliar. Yes, who's this? Ma'am, you need to come urgently. The woods behind Riverside Quarry. I'm Sam Tucker, a hunter. I found your daughter. She's been beaten badly. I called 911, but they're 45 minutes out. You're closer. Please hurry. My hands went cold. I'm coming. I turned my 2008 Chevy Silverado around, didn't check for traffic, didn't signal, and drove north. The truck is 15 years old with 187,000 miles, but it runs. Marcus bought it new in 2008 for $23,400. It's paid off. I keep it maintained. Riverside Quarry was 7 miles north. I made it in 8 minutes. When I pulled up, Sam Tucker was waiting by his Ford F-150. He pointed toward the trees. About 100 yards east. I put my jacket under her head. Ma'am, she's in bad shape. I ran. I'm 62 years old, but I ran. My boots sank in the mud. Branches whipped my face. Then I saw her. At first, I didn't recognize Jenny. She was curled on her side, fetal position. Her cream Burberry coat, the one I'd seen her wear last Christmas, probably 1-800, was torn, covered in mud and blood. Her blonde hair was matted dark red. Her face was swollen, unrecognizable. Massive bruise under her left eye, already purple-black. Split lip, still bleeding. Jenny, my voice came out steady, professional. 35 years of nursing training kicked in. Baby, it's Mom. I'm here. She opened her right eye. The left was swollen shut. Didn't focus at first, then recognition. Mom! I knelt beside her, hands already assessing injuries. Years of trauma nursing. Check airway, breathing, circulation. Ran my hands over her body. Right wrist bent wrong. Definitely broken. She gasped when I touched her left ribs. Broken ribs? Maybe 3. Head injury. Concussion at minimum. Jenny, who did this? She tried to sit up, cried out in pain. I helped her sip water from Sam Tucker's thermos. The warm liquid seemed to help. Victoria Whitmore. Each word cost her. My mother-in-law. I stopped breathing. Victoria did this? Jenny nodded, wincing. She said I have dirty blood. That I'm a disgrace to their family. That my baby... Her voice broke. Baby? Her hand moved to her stomach. 12 weeks pregnant. We haven't told anyone yet. Wanted to wait until... She started crying. Mom, she said my baby would be an abomination. That she'd rather have no grandchild than one with dirty blood. Something inside me went very cold, very calm. This is what happens when you're black in America. You learn to separate emotion from action. You learn that rage has to be ice cold and methodical, or it destroys you. Tell me what happened. She called this morning. Said she wanted to show me a development site for Bradley's birthday surprise. We drove out past the old mill on River Road. Walked into the woods. Then she turned around and hit me, with a tire iron from her trunk. What did she say? She kept saying about my blood, our blood, said I was polluting their family line, that my baby would ruin their reputation, that people like us, Jenny sobbed, people like us don't belong with people like them. In the distance I heard a siren, the ambulance. Jenny, we need to get you to a hospital. No! She grabbed my arm with surprising strength. No hospital, Mom. Please. They have people everywhere. Bradley, he'll take her side. He always takes her side. Jenny, you're a nurse. You can help me. Please. Her one open eye was desperate. If I go to the hospital, if Bradley finds out, I'll never be safe. Mom, she tried to kill me. She'll try again. The siren was getting louder. Maybe 90 seconds away. I had a choice. Follow protocol. Get her to the hospital, call police, do everything by the book. That was the right thing. The safe thing. Or trust my daughter's fear. Victoria Whitmore was rich, connected, respected. Philanthropist of the year. If she could beat Jenny this badly and leave her to die, what could she do in a hospital? A delayed diagnosis. A medication error. I'd seen it happen. Not at my hospital, thank God, but I'd heard stories. And if Bradley wouldn't protect his own pregnant wife... Sam, I called. The hunter appeared. Sam, when the ambulance gets here, you tell them it was a mistake. You thought you saw someone hurt, but it was just a deer carcass. The light was bad. You made an error. His eyes widened. But my daughter is in danger from the person who did this. If she goes to a hospital, that person will find her. That person has money and connections. Do you understand? Sam looked at Jenny, then back at me. Long pause. Then, I got a sister. Her ex-husband beat her for 3 years. Courts didn't protect her. I understand. Thank you. I got Jenny to her feet. She bit back screams but stood. We moved through the woods slowly, her weight on me. Behind us, I heard Sam talking to the paramedics. Sorry guys, my mistake. It was a deer half-eaten by coyotes. Looked human in the dark. False alarm. I drove Jenny home. Every bump made her gasp in pain, but she stayed conscious. Good sign. At my house, I settled her on the living room couch, built a fire in the wood stove, and got my medical supplies. I keep a full kit: bandages, splints, sutures, medications, old nursing habits. For the next hour, I worked. Cleaned wounds, butterfly bandages on her split lip. Splinted her broken wrist, clean fracture, no displacement. Wrapped her cracked ribs. 800 milligrams ibuprofen, 500 milligrams acetaminophen, both safe for pregnancy. No opioids, too risky. Then I found my old fetal Doppler from when I worked obstetrics. Warmed the gel, placed it on Jenny's abdomen, and listened. Thump, 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 thump. Fast, strong, 156 beats per minute. The baby's alive, I said. Heartbeat is good. Jenny started sobbing with relief. By 10 o'clock p.m., she was cleaned up, stabilized, resting. I woke her every 2 hours to check for worsening concussion. Each time she was groggy but responsive. At 6 o'clock a.m. on October 24th, I sat at my kitchen table with Jenny's purse. Victoria hadn't taken it. Mistake number 1. Inside was Jenny's iPhone 14 Pro, screen cracked but functional. Battery at 23%. I unlocked it with the passcode Jenny gave me, 1989, the year Marcus and I bought this house. In her photos, there was an album titled Documents, Bradley Work. 63 photographs. The first showed a letterhead. Bright Hope Foundation, Victoria L. Whitmore, Executive Director and Founder. Then bank statements. Account at PNC Bank, ending in 4729. For March 2024 alone, deposits totaling $12,847,293. $12 million. In 1 month, then transfer records. Bright Hope Foundation to Riverside Consulting Partners, LLC. $2,300,000 for strategic planning services. To Keystone Analytics Group, Inc. $1,875,000 for program evaluation. To Summit Advisory Solutions, LLC. $3,450,000 for grant management. Page after page, company after company. I started writing down numbers. By 8 o'clock a.m., I had a preliminary tally from the photos Jenny managed to take. Documented transfers from Bright Hope Foundation to suspicious LLCs, January 2024 to September 2024, $7,234,988, $47 million in 9 months. And these were just the photos Jenny had captured before Victoria caught her. There were likely more transactions she hadn't discovered. I looked up the companies. Riverside Consulting was incorporated in Delaware on January 3, 2024, 5 days before receiving its first payment. The registered agent was Thomas Morrison at a P.O. box. A quick Google search. Thomas Morrison died in 2019. Jenny, I said, bringing her tea. Where did you find these documents? Bradley's office. He's on Bright Hope's Board of Trustees. Victoria asked him to review the annual report 2 weeks ago. I was looking for prenatal vitamins on his desk, knocked over papers, and saw the numbers. They didn't make sense, so I looked deeper. And you asked Victoria about it? 2 days ago, October 22nd. I called her with questions about the consulting contracts. She got very quiet, then said we should meet in person, talk privately. Suggested we drive out to see the development land. Jenny's voice broke. I gave her a chance to explain, and she tried to kill me for it. I looked at the phone. 63 photos, $47 million in documented fraud. And somewhere, Victoria was probably planning her next move. She'd left Jenny for dead, but she couldn't be sure. She'd come back to finish the job. We needed help. Real help. Someone who understood how to fight people with money and power. I opened my laptop and searched. Timothy Hayes, civil rights attorney, Philadelphia. 6 months ago, he'd won a $17 million discrimination settlement. Before that, a case against a nursing home corporation for elder abuse. Before that, a landlord evicting black tenants. Timothy Hayes was 58, had practiced law for 32 years, and didn't back down from powerful opponents. He was also black. I needed someone who'd understand that dirty blood wasn't just an insult, it was a motive. I found his website and typed, "To Timothy Hayes, Esquire, from Dorothy Gable. Date, October 24th, 2024, 8:47 a.m. Subject, urgent, attempted murder and charity fraud. Mr. Hayes, my name is Dorothy Gable. I am 62 years old, a retired RN. Yesterday, my daughter Jennifer Gable Whitmore, age 32, was beaten and left for dead by her mother-in-law, Victoria Whitmore. Victoria is executive director of Bright Hope Foundation, handles $150 plus annually. My daughter discovered Victoria has embezzled $47,234,910 through fake consulting companies. When Jenny asked about it, Victoria tried to murder her. My daughter is alive but severely injured. Pregnant, 12 weeks. Afraid to go to police because the Whitmores have significant influence. I have photographic evidence of the financial crimes. I have my daughter's testimony. I need help from someone who isn't afraid of powerful people. Please call me, 717-550147. This is urgent. Respectfully, Dorothy Gable. I hit send at 8:52 a.m. At 9:17 a.m., my phone rang. Ms. Gable, Timothy Hayes. I got your email. Tell me everything. Timothy Hayes arrived at my house on October 25th at 2:00 p.m. He drove a black 2022 Lexus ES350 with Philadelphia plates. I watched through the window as he parked, got out, and looked at my modest farmhouse with an appraising eye. He was a tall man, maybe 6'2", lean build, salt and pepper hair cut short. He wore a charcoal gray suit that probably cost $2,000, polished black Oxfords, and carried a leather briefcase. He looked like money, but not old money. This was earned money, hard-won money. I opened the door before he knocked. Mr. Hayes, thank you for coming all this way. Ms. Gable, his handshake was firm. Call me Timothy. And driving 93 miles to potentially take down a corrupt charity executive, that's not all this way. That's Tuesday. I liked him immediately. Jenny was resting on the couch, still badly bruised, but more alert than yesterday. Timothy's face hardened when he saw her injuries. Mrs. Whitmore, he said, his voice gentler. I'm Timothy Hayes. I need to ask you some difficult questions. Are you up for that? Yes. Jenny sat up straighter, wincing. I want her to pay for what she did. For the next hour, Timothy took notes while Jenny told her story. He recorded it on his phone with her permission, asked specific questions, exact times, exact locations, exact words Victoria used. When Jenny got to the part about dirty blood, Timothy's jaw tightened. That phrase, he said. She used those exact words? Yes, Jenny said. She kept saying it. Your dirty blood. You people with your dirty blood. I won't let dirty blood pollute the Whitmore name. Timothy looked at me. Ms. Gable, in your email you mentioned your racial background. Can you elaborate? I explained. My black grandmother, my mixed mother, my appearance, the lifetime of hearing dirty blood as a slur in rural Pennsylvania. Timothy nodded slowly. This gives us a hate crime angle. Attempted murder motivated by racial animus. That's federal jurisdiction, potentially. Will that help? I asked. It means Victoria can't just buy her way out with local connections. Federal prosecutors don't scare as easily. He turned back to Jenny. Now tell me about the financial documents you found. Jenny walked him through the discovery. Timothy examined the photos on her phone, zooming in on account numbers, dates, amounts. His expression got grimmer with each image. This is massive, he said finally. Bright Hope Foundation is a 501c3 registered charity. Embezzlement from a charity is a federal crime under Title 18, Section 666. We're looking at potential prison time of 10 to 20 years if convicted. Can we prove it? I asked. These photos are a start, but we need more. Bank records from the recipient companies, incorporation documents showing their shells, paper trails linking the money back to Victoria. He looked at me. Do you know a forensic accountant? No. I do. Her name is Rachel Chen. She's worked with me on 3 previous fraud cases, and she's brilliant. I'll have her start tracing these companies today. He made a note. Now here's what I need from both of you. Jenny, I need you to make a formal statement about the assault. We'll take photos of your injuries, medical documentation. Dorothy, I need your nursing notes from when you treated her. Everything dated, everything specific. I can do that, I said. Good. Second, we need to establish a timeline of Victoria's behavior toward Jenny. Every incident of abuse, discrimination, cruelty. Dates, witnesses, evidence. Think of this like building a house. We need a foundation of pattern and practice before we get to the attempted murder. Jenny spoke up. There's something else. In early 2022, I was pregnant. I miscarried at 8 weeks. At the time, I thought... She stopped, swallowed. Victoria had been giving me special teas. Every morning. She said they were family recipes for fertility and health. Timothy's pen stopped moving. Go on. After I lost the baby, I found the tea tin in my trash. I looked up the ingredients. Jenny's voice shook. Pennyroyal, tansy, black cohosh, all of them can cause miscarriage. The room went silent. Did you keep the tin? Timothy asked quietly. No, I threw it away. I thought I was being paranoid. Bradley said his mother would never... She stopped. I didn't have proof. Did you tell your doctors about the tea? No, I was embarrassed. Thought they'd say I was making excuses for my own body failing. Timothy wrote for a long moment. Then, here's what this tells me. 2 years ago, Victoria poisoned you to cause a miscarriage. This time she tried to beat you to death. The escalation suggests she's getting desperate, which means... He looked at me. She's going to come looking for Jenny. She left her for dead, but she's not stupid. She'll wonder if Jenny survived. She'll want to make sure. My stomach went cold. How much time do we have? Not much. Maybe a week before she starts actively searching. Maybe less. He closed his notebook. Here's what we're going to do. First, Jenny, you're staying here with your mother. No contact with Bradley. No contact with anyone in the Whitmore family. You're effectively in hiding. Second, Dorothy, I'm hiring private security. 2 men ex-military will be watching this property 24/7. Third, I'm filing a restraining order against Victoria today. It won't stop her if she's truly determined, but it creates a legal record. What about the police? I asked. Not yet. We go to local police, and there's a chance the Whitmores hear about it before we're ready. We need overwhelming evidence first, criminal and civil. Then we go to the FBI and the Pennsylvania Attorney General simultaneously. Hit her from multiple angles so she can't wiggle out. He stood up, handed me his card. This is my direct cell. You call me anytime, day or night, if anything seems wrong. Understood? Understood. Good. I'll be back in 3 days with Rachel Chen. In the meantime, you two write down everything you remember about Victoria. Every cruel word, every suspicious incident, everything. Dates, times, witnesses. We're building a case that will bury her. After he left, Jenny turned to me. Mom, do you think this will work? Yes, I said, because I had to believe it would. On October 27th, Timothy returned with Rachel Chen. She was a small woman, maybe 5'3", late 40s, wearing glasses and carrying a laptop bag that probably weighed as much as she did. Ms. Gable, Mrs. Whitmore, she said, setting up at my kitchen table. Let's talk about money. For the next 4 hours, Rachel walked us through her preliminary findings. She'd spent 48 hours tracing the companies that received money from Bright Hope Foundation. Riverside Consulting Partners, she said, pulling up a spreadsheet. Incorporated January 3, 2024 in Delaware. Registered agent Thomas Morrison, deceased 2019. The P.O. Box address is a commercial mail service in Wilmington. Basically, anyone can rent one. The company received its first payment from Bright Hope on January 8th, $2,300,000. That money was transferred within 24 hours to an account at Cayman National Bank. Can you trace it further? Timothy asked. Partially. The Cayman account is registered to a different LLC, which then dispersed funds to 3 other accounts. Classic laundering structure. But, she smiled. I found something interesting. One of the dispersal accounts is at a private bank in Zurich. That account is registered to Victoria L. Whitmore personally. Jenny gasped. She was stealing from her own charity. Oh, it gets better, Rachel said. Keystone Analytics Group, Summit Advisory Solutions, Precision Management Consultants. I found 7 shell companies total, all incorporated within 6 months of each other, all receiving payments from Bright Hope, and I traced the money from 4 of them back to accounts controlled by Victoria. How much total? I asked. Rachel consulted her notes. From January 2024 to September 2024, the 7 shell companies received $73,458,291 from Bright Hope Foundation. I can definitively trace $52,180,000 of that to accounts Victoria controls or has access to. $52 million. The number was so large it didn't seem real. But wait, Rachel said. I dug deeper into Bright Hope's financials. The foundation has been operating for 7 years. I pulled their 990 forms. Those are the tax returns charities have to file publicly. Over 7 years, total donations to Bright Hope, $387,942,156. Nearly $388 million. She pulled up another spreadsheet. Now look at their program expenses, the actual money spent on charitable activities. Over 7 years, $143,267,891, about 37% of donations. Where did the other 63% go? Timothy asked, though his tone said he already knew. Administrative costs, supposedly, consulting fees, program evaluation, strategic planning, management services, all the categories where you can hide theft. Rachel leaned back. Here's my professional opinion. Victoria Whitmore has been systematically looting Bright Hope Foundation for 7 years. Conservative estimate? She's stolen over $200 million. $200 million. Jenny put her head in her hands. Oh my God. There's more, Rachel said quietly. I found Victoria's personal tax returns for the past 3 years. She reported income of approximately $450,000 annually from her work with Bright Hope, a reasonable salary for a nonprofit executive. But her spending? Rachel pulled up credit card statements. In 2023 alone, she spent $2,847,392 on personal expenses. Jewelry, travel, art, clothing, home renovations. There's no way to spend nearly $3 million on a $450,000 salary unless you're either borrowing heavily or have another income source. The stolen charity money, Timothy said. Exactly. She's not even trying to hide it. She thinks she's untouchable. We sat in silence for a moment, absorbing the scope of Victoria's crimes. Then Jenny said, There's something I need to tell you about my miscarriage 2 years ago. She explained about the tea again. Rachel listened, taking notes. Do you remember the brand? Rachel asked. Or where Victoria bought it? She said it was a special blend. Came in an unmarked tin, but... Jenny thought. Wait, she mentioned once that she got it from an herbalist in Harrisburg. A woman named Margaret. Margaret's Natural Remedies on Market Street. Rachel wrote it down. I'll check it out. 2 days later, Rachel called me. I found Margaret's Natural Remedies. Talked to the owner, Margaret Reeves. She remembers Victoria. Sold her a custom herbal blend in February 2022, 2 months before Jenny's miscarriage. Margaret keeps detailed records of her custom blends for liability purposes. And? I asked. The blend contained pennyroyal, tansy, black cohosh, and rue. Margaret specifically warned Victoria that the blend was dangerous for pregnant women and should never be consumed during pregnancy. Victoria signed a liability waiver acknowledging the warning. My hands were shaking. She knew. She knew it would cause a miscarriage. Margaret will testify, Rachel said. She's willing to provide her records and her testimony. She says she feels terrible. She thought Victoria was buying it for menopausal symptoms. She never imagined Victoria would give it to a pregnant woman. I thanked her and hung up. Jenny was in the living room, reading. I sat down next to her. Baby, we found proof. About the tea. About what Victoria did to your first pregnancy. Jenny's face crumpled. She'd suspected, but hearing it confirmed, that her mother-in-law had deliberately poisoned her, had deliberately killed her first baby, was too much. I held her while she cried. And I made a promise. Victoria Whitmore would pay for every single thing she'd done. On November 2nd, Timothy called with news. I found something about Bradley, he said, and you're not going to like it. He came over that evening with a folder of documents. I had my investigators look into Bradley Whitmore's finances and communications. We didn't hack anything. That would be illegal. But we found some interesting public records and did some interviews with people who know the family. He spread out the documents. First, Bradley receives a salary of $385,000 per year from Whitmore Construction Holdings. Reasonable for an executive position. But he also receives $15,000 per month from a trust controlled by Victoria. $180,000 per year, ostensibly for family support and business development. So Victoria controls his money, I said. More than that. I talked to 3 former employees of Whitmore Construction. 2 of them said Bradley is essentially a figurehead. He shows up to meetings, signs papers, but he doesn't actually run anything. The business is managed by professional executives. Bradley's main job is to look good at charity events and not embarrass the family. He's a puppet, Jenny said quietly. Worse. One of the ex-employees told me something interesting. 3 years ago, Bradley had a brief affair with a woman named Christina Morales. She worked in the company's HR department. The affair lasted about 2 months, then ended. 6 months later, Christina filed a sexual harassment complaint against Bradley. The company settled for $175,000, and Christina signed an NDA. Jenny went pale. I didn't know about any affair. Victoria made it go away. But here's the thing. I found Christina. She still lives in Harrisburg. She agreed to talk to me off the record. She said the affair was consensual, but when she tried to end it, Bradley became aggressive. Made threats about her job. One night, he showed up drunk at her apartment. Timothy paused. Christina also said that Victoria knew about the affair from the beginning. In fact, Victoria encouraged it. Christina thought it was strange at the time. What mother encourages her married son to have an affair? But looking back, she realizes Victoria was creating leverage, something to hold over Bradley's head. To control him, I said. Exactly. And there's more. After Jenny's miscarriage 2 years ago, Bradley took out a $50,000 personal loan from a private lender. High interest rate, 18% APR. He's still paying it back. Why would he need a loan? Jenny asked. He makes almost $400,000 a year. That's what I wondered. So I dug deeper. Turns out Bradley has a gambling problem. Not casinos, sports betting, online, offshore sites. In the past 3 years, he's lost approximately $267,000 betting on football, basketball, and baseball. Jenny looked sick. I had no idea. Victoria knew. My investigators found emails between Victoria and Bradley from 18 months ago. She bailed him out of a $35,000 debt to a bookie. In exchange, Bradley agreed to follow Mother's guidance on all family matters. Those were Victoria's exact words in the email. The picture was becoming clear. Victoria didn't just control Bradley's money, she owned him completely. The affair, the gambling debts, the financial dependence. She'd systematically made sure her son would never stand up to her. So when Victoria poisoned me, Jenny said slowly, Bradley knew, and he said nothing. It's worse than that, Timothy said gently. I found text messages between Bradley and Victoria from October 22nd. The day you asked Victoria about the financial irregularities. Victoria texted Bradley, "Your wife is asking questions. Deal with it or I will." Bradley replied, "I'll talk to her." 20 minutes later, "She won't listen to me." Victoria, "Then I'll handle it. You just stay out of the way." "He knew she was going to hurt me," Jenny whispered. The next day, October 23rd, Bradley texted his mother at 6:15 p.m. "Is it done?" Victoria replied at 6:52 p.m. "Yes. Stop worrying. That was 33 minutes after Sam Tucker found you in the woods." Jenny was crying silently. I put my arm around her. "This is good for our case," Timothy said, his voice gentle but firm. "Bradley's complicity makes him an accessory to attempted murder. We can use that. Offer him a deal. Testify against his mother in exchange for reduced charges. He's weak. He'll break." "I don't want to see him," Jenny said. "You won't have to. I'll handle it." Timothy gathered his documents. "1 more week. That's all I need to finalize everything. Then we take all of this to the FBI and the Attorney General's office simultaneously. Victoria won't know what hit her." After he left, Jenny turned to me. "Mom, I married a monster." "No," I said firmly. "You married a weak man controlled by a monster. There's a difference, but that doesn't make what he did okay. I'm scared. What if this doesn't work? What if she gets away with everything?" I took her hands. "Listen to me. I'm 62 years old. I've lived my entire life hearing people call my blood dirty. I've been underestimated, dismissed, and discriminated against. But I'm still here. And I'm not going to let Victoria Whitmore, with all her money and her mansion and her charity galas, destroy my daughter and grandchild. How are you so strong?" "Because my grandmother Zora taught me something. She said, 'Dorothy, they'll try to break you. They'll use words, money, laws, violence, everything they have. But remember, the blood they call dirty is the blood of survivors. We don't break. We bend, we adapt, we outlast. And in the end, we win." I squeezed Jenny's hands. "Victoria thinks dirty blood means weak blood. She's about to learn she's wrong." On November 8th, Timothy called me at 7:00 a.m. "It's time," he said. "We have everything we need. The FBI is ready. The Pennsylvania Attorney General's office is ready. Today we bring Victoria Whitmore down." My hands were steady as I poured my coffee. 3 weeks of preparing for this moment. What happens now? At 2:00 p.m. today, Victoria has a scheduled meeting at her Bright Hope Foundation office. It's a routine quarterly review with the Board of Trustees. Bradley will be there. What Victoria doesn't know is that FBI Special Agent Sarah Mitchell and Assistant Attorney General David Torres will also be there, with arrest warrants. "You told Bradley?" "I made him a deal yesterday. He testifies against his mother, provides all communications and documents, and pleads guilty to accessory after the fact. In exchange, he gets 5 years probation instead of 10 years in prison. He took it." Good. I felt no sympathy for Bradley. He'd known Victoria was going to hurt Jenny and did nothing. "There's one more thing," Timothy said. "Agent Mitchell wants Jenny to be there, not in the room, but in the building. They want Victoria to see her, to know she survived." I looked at Jenny, who was listening on speakerphone. Her bruises had faded to yellow-green, but they were still visible. Her wrist was still splinted. "I'll do it," Jenny said firmly. "I want to look her in the eye." At 1:45 p.m., Timothy picked us up in his Lexus. We drove to Harrisburg, to the Bright Hope Foundation offices on 2nd Street, a beautiful historic building that the charity had renovated in 2019 for $4.3 million. Donor money. Stolen money. Agent Sarah Mitchell met us in the parking garage. She was a tall black woman, maybe 45, with an air of absolute authority. She wore a Navy FBI windbreaker and carried herself like someone who'd seen everything twice. "Mrs. Whitmore," she said, shaking Jenny's hand carefully, aware of her injuries. "Thank you for your courage. I know this isn't easy." "I want justice," Jenny said. "You'll get it." Agent Mitchell turned to me. "Ms. Gable, I read your statement. Your documentation of your daughter's injuries was crucial. Without that medical evidence, this case would be much harder to prove." "I'm a nurse," I said simply. Documentation is what we do. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The Bright Hope Foundation offices were elegant. Mahogany furniture, original artwork, fresh flowers. All bought with money meant for sick children. Agent Mitchell positioned us in a conference room with one-way glass overlooking the main boardroom. We could see in. They couldn't see out. At 1:58 p.m., Bradley arrived. He looked terrible, pale, sweating, dark circles under his eyes. He saw Agent Mitchell and nodded slightly. He knew what was coming. At 2:01 p.m., Victoria Whitmore entered. She looked perfect. Cream-colored Chanel suit, probably $8,000. Blonde hair styled immaculately. Cartier watch, $32,000. Pearl necklace. She carried a Louis Vuitton briefcase and smiled at the receptionist like she owned the world. Because she thought she did. Victoria walked into the boardroom where 5 board members were already seated. Bradley was there too, looking at his hands. "Good afternoon, everyone," Victoria said warmly. "Thank you for making time for our quarterly review. I have excellent news about our Q3 fundraising numbers." Agent Mitchell checked her watch. 2:03 p.m. "Now," she said into her radio. The boardroom doors opened. Agent Mitchell walked in, followed by Assistant Attorney General David Torres and 4 more FBI agents. Victoria's smile froze. "Victoria Louise Whitmore," Agent Mitchell said, her voice carrying clearly through the glass. "I'm Special Agent Sarah Mitchell with the FBI. You're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, and attempted murder." For 3 seconds, Victoria didn't move. Then her mask cracked. "This is absurd. Do you know who I am?" "Yes, ma'am. You're the executive director of Bright Hope Foundation. You're also a thief who's stolen over $200 million from a children's charity." Agent Mitchell nodded to another agent, who began reading Miranda rights. "I want my lawyer. I'm not saying anything without—" "That's your right," Agent Mitchell said calmly. She opened a folder and placed a document on the table. "But you should know what we have. This is a warrant to seize all financial records of Bright Hope Foundation, going back 7 years. We've already frozen all bank accounts associated with the foundation and with 7 shell corporations: Riverside Consulting Partners, Keystone Analytics Group, Summit Advisory Solutions, Precision Management Consultants, Harbor Strategic Services, Allegiance Business Group, and Metropolitan Program Associates." Victoria's face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about." "These companies received $73,458,291 from Bright Hope Foundation over the past 10 months alone." Agent Mitchell placed another document down. "This is a forensic accounting report tracing $52,180,000 of that money to accounts controlled by you personally. Banks in the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, and Singapore." "That's impossible. You can't prove—" "We can." Another document. "Here are your personal tax returns for the past 3 years showing reported income of approximately $450,000 annually. Here are your credit card statements showing you spent $2,847,392 in 2023 alone. Where did that money come from, Mrs. Whitmore?" Victoria was breathing hard now, her perfect composure shattering. "I want my lawyer." "Noted, but there's more." Agent Mitchell's voice got colder. "On October 23, 2024, at approximately 4:30 p.m., you drove your daughter-in-law, Jennifer Gable Whitmore, to a remote location near River Road. You then assaulted her with a tire iron, causing multiple fractures, lacerations, and contusions. You left her in the woods to die from exposure and her injuries. Is that correct?" "No, that's a lie. We have Jennifer's testimony. We have medical documentation of her injuries from a registered nurse. We have text messages between you and your son Bradley discussing the assault before and after it occurred." Victoria's eyes snapped to Bradley. He was staring at the table, refusing to meet her gaze. "Bradley?" Victoria's voice was sharp. "What did you tell them?" Bradley finally looked up. His face was wet with tears. "Everything, Mother. I told them everything." "You spineless? We also have this." Agent Mitchell placed a photo on the table. A crime scene photo of Jenny in the woods, covered in blood, barely conscious. Victoria looked at it and went even paler. "You beat a pregnant woman and left her to die," Agent Mitchell said quietly. "And you did it because you didn't want dirty blood in your family. Multiple witnesses will testify that you repeatedly used that phrase. This is a hate crime, Mrs. Whitmore. Attempted murder motivated by racial animus. Federal jurisdiction." She was asking questions she had no business asking. "About your theft of $200 million from a charity?" Agent Mitchell leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to be charged with 47 counts of wire fraud, 18 counts of money laundering, and 1 count of attempted murder with a hate crime enhancement. The wire fraud alone carries up to 20 years per count. The attempted murder with hate crime enhancement carries up to life in prison. Your bail will be set at $10 million cash, and I'll be recommending the judge deny bail entirely because you're a flight risk with access to offshore accounts." Victoria's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. "But here's the worst part for you," Agent Mitchell said, and I heard something like satisfaction in her voice. "In about 15 minutes, I'm holding a press conference on the steps of this building. Every news outlet in Pennsylvania will be there. By 6:00 p.m. tonight, everyone will know that Philadelphia's Philanthropist of the Year is actually a racist thief who tried to murder her pregnant daughter-in-law. Your reputation, the thing you care about more than anything, will be destroyed forever. You can't watch me." Agent Mitchell nodded to 2 agents who moved behind Victoria. "Victoria Louise Whitmore, stand up and place your hands behind your back." "No, wait, I can explain. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." They handcuffed her. Victoria's perfect facade finally shattered completely. She started screaming. "This is a mistake. I'm innocent. Bradley, tell them. Tell them I'm innocent." Bradley looked at his mother with something like pity. "No, Mother, you're not." As they led Victoria out, she passed the one-way glass where we were standing. She couldn't see us, but we could see her. Her makeup was running. Her hair was coming undone. She looked old and small and ordinary. Jenny squeezed my hand. We said nothing. 6 months later. It's April now. Spring in Pennsylvania. I'm sitting on my porch at 6:30 a.m., drinking coffee and watching the sun come up over my 10 acres. The dogwoods are blooming. The air smells like fresh earth and new grass. Jenny is inside, making breakfast. She's 8 months pregnant now. The baby, a girl, is due in 3 weeks. We're naming her Zora, after my grandmother. The past 6 months have been a whirlwind. Victoria Whitmore pleaded guilty to 47 counts of wire fraud, 18 counts of money laundering, and 1 count of attempted murder. She got 32 years in federal prison. She'll be 90 years old when she's released, if she lives that long. The sentencing hearing was in February. The judge, an older black woman named Henrietta Washington, had some choice words. "Mrs. Whitmore," Judge Washington said, "you stole over $200 million from sick children. You used racial slurs to justify attempted murder. You showed no remorse, no conscience, no humanity. You are going to prison for a very long time, and you will have many years to reflect on your crimes." Victoria tried to speak. The judge cut her off. "I don't want to hear it. Take her away." Bradley pleaded guilty to accessory after the fact and obstruction of justice. He got 5 years probation, 2,000 hours of community service, and permanent removal from any position at Whitmore Construction Holdings. The company is now run by professional management. Bradley works at a hardware store for $15 an hour and attends court-ordered therapy twice a week. Jenny divorced him. It was finalized in March. She got a settlement of $2.7 million. Money Bradley inherited from his father, not money connected to Victoria's crimes. Jenny donated $1 million of it to children's hospitals in Pennsylvania. She kept the rest for Zora's future. We live here now, in my farmhouse. Jenny has a remote job doing financial consulting for nonprofits, helping them avoid the kind of fraud Victoria committed. She's good at it. She makes $85,000 a year and works from home. I teach a class twice a week at the community college. Introduction to Nursing for students considering healthcare careers. I'm 62 years old and technically retired, but I wanted to give back. Plus, the students keep me sharp. Timothy Hayes visits sometimes. He and Jenny are friends now. He's teaching her about civil rights law. She's thinking about law school after the baby is old enough. The Bright Hope Foundation was dissolved. All remaining assets, about $14 million, were distributed to legitimate children's charities. The victims of Victoria's theft will never get all their money back, but at least some good came from the wreckage. As for me, I'm at peace. People ask me how I stayed so calm through everything, how I didn't break down when I found Jenny in those woods, how I managed to document everything, find a lawyer, build a case while taking care of my injured pregnant daughter. The answer is simple. I'm 62 years old and I've been hearing dirty blood my entire life. My grandmother Zora heard it too. She was a black woman in Alabama in the 1930s and 40s. She survived Jim Crow, survived poverty, survived the hatred of people who thought her existence was wrong. She married a white man when it was dangerous to do so. She raised children in a world that didn't want them to exist. And she taught me something. The blood they call dirty is the blood of survivors. It's the blood of people who were enslaved and somehow stayed human. It's the blood of people who were segregated and still fought for justice. It's the blood of people who were told they were less than human and somehow knew it was a lie. That blood doesn't make us weak. It makes us strong in ways people like Victoria Whitmore can't understand. She thought her money and her mansion and her charity galas made her powerful. She thought she could beat my daughter to death and get away with it because we were beneath her. She was wrong. Because at the end of the day, all her money couldn't buy her what my grandmother gave me for free. Dignity, resilience, and the unshakable knowledge that my worth doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion. Victoria is in a federal prison in West Virginia now, sharing a cell with another inmate, eating cafeteria food, wearing a uniform. Everything that made her special is gone, and she has 32 years to think about it. Meanwhile, I'm sitting on my porch, drinking coffee, waiting for my granddaughter to be born. Justice didn't come from revenge. It came from documentation, evidence, patience, and the courage to stand up to someone who thought we'd be too scared or too weak to fight back. Jenny comes out onto the porch, carrying a plate of scrambled eggs. "Breakfast, Mom." "Thank you, baby." She sits down next to me, one hand on her enormous belly. Zora's kicking like crazy this morning. She knows she's almost here. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you think she'll face discrimination? Zora, for being mixed like you did?" I think about this carefully. Maybe. The world is better than it was when I was growing up, but it's not perfect. People might say things. She might feel like she doesn't fit in anywhere. That scares me. I know, but here's what you'll tell her. I take Jenny's hand. You'll tell her that her great-great-grandmother Zora was a warrior, that her great-grandmother Dorothy was a nurse who never backed down, that her mother Jenny is a survivor who rebuilt her life from ashes. You'll tell her that the blood in her veins isn't dirty, it's gold. It's the blood of women who refuse to be broken. Jenny starts crying. Pregnancy hormones, probably, but also relief. You'll tell her, I continue, that being underestimated is a gift, that when people think you're weak, you have the element of surprise. And you'll tell her what my grandmother told me. Baby, they're going to try to make you small. Don't let them. You take up space. You stand tall. You remember who you are. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. We sit in silence, eating breakfast, watching the sun climb higher. Somewhere far away, Victoria Whitmore is waking up in a prison cell. Somewhere in Harrisburg, Bradley is getting ready for another shift at the hardware store. But here, on this porch, in this simple farmhouse on 10 acres of Pennsylvania woods, we're free. We're safe. We're together. And in 3 weeks, a baby girl named Zora will be born, carrying the blood of survivors, the strength of warriors, and the promise of a better future. I learned something at 62 years old that I wish I'd known sooner. The greatest victories aren't loud. They're quiet moments like this. Coffee on the porch, your daughter beside you, your grandchild on the way, and the knowledge that you stood up to evil and won. Not with violence, not with hatred, but with truth, evidence, patience, and the unbreakable strength that comes from knowing exactly who you are. Victoria called it dirty blood. I call it the blood of champions, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. On May 3rd, 2025, Jennifer Gable gave birth to Zora Dorothy Gable, 7 pounds 4 ounces, healthy and perfect. Timothy Hayes is her godfather. Victoria Whitmore's appeal was denied. Bradley Whitmore sends a card every month asking if he can meet his daughter. Jenny hasn't responded yet. Maybe someday, maybe never. Dorothy Gable turned 63 years old, surrounded by family, flowers, and the quiet peace of a life well lived. And every morning she drinks her coffee on the porch and remembers her grandmother's words. The blood they call dirty is the blood of survivors. We don't break. We bend, we adapt, we outlast. And in the end, we win. She did. They did. And baby Zora will too.